Hi everybody, I'm Michele Shusterman and I'm so happy to have the opportunity to talk to you all today. I wish I could be there in person, but we're going to have to use this as a compromise. So I am the president of CP Now, and that is a national nonprofit supporting the cerebral palsy community. I have a daughter, Lily, who's 12 years old, and she has a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. She's the reason that I got involved in this work supporting the cerebral palsy community. In the beginning, when Lily was born, she was born early, she was in the NICU, and she had a brain bleed. It was quite significant, and my husband Blake is a physician, so I was able to ask him questions at that time about what was happening and what to expect and what resources may be available. And what we found at that time was there wasn't much to give us insight into how to help Lily from that point on. And I was really rather shocked when I said, well, I asked my husband, what do they do for babies when they have a brain bleed? Something that's so acute and so frightening. And he said to me, they don't do anything. They just observe the child and see how things go. And I was so startled to hear that. That was the first time, or the first piece of information or insight I got about what kind of neglect or absence of support this community really has. When Lily was about 3 years old, I decided that I wanted to create a space for families and adults with cerebral palsy so that they could access reliable information, something that would help them better understand the symptoms that they were coping with. And I'm very pragmatic. So I wanted to offer our personal experience as a family in raising our daughter, but also provide solutions or what we would come up with to help us navigate different problems that we faced on a daily basis. That led to the development of CP Daily Living and eventually to me establishing the nonprofit CP Now. It was my way of offering something to the cerebral palsy community that I never found. I was very fortunate because my husband is a physician that I could ask him to pull articles from medical literature for me to have a better understanding of what research was being done. And I felt that it was so important for families and individuals with cerebral palsy to have access to reliable information. I couldn't find anything that offered what I wanted. So after about 5 years, I was learning more about the needs of the community, and even hearing worldwide from people who were facing the same challenges I felt families were facing here in the United States. And we just decided as a family that I had outgrown CP Daily Living's infrastructure and I needed to be able to fundraise. So I started CP Now a few years ago. The mission of CP Now is to optimize the lifelong health, wellness, and inclusion of people who have cerebral palsy and their families. In order to meet our mission and our goals, we provide educational resources. We developed, our first resource was the Cerebral Palsy Toolkit, and that's a comprehensive resource guide for caregivers who've just received a cerebral palsy diagnosis. I didn't find anything like that when my daughter was born, or a national organization that was providing materials. So that was the first thing that I wanted to do to get us started. And we also are focused on funding research, and we want to get people with cerebral palsy active. A lot of people with cerebral palsy are facing challenges, particularly as they get older, with age-related conditions, many of them similar to what we see as we age without a diagnosis of cerebral palsy. You know, issues related to heart health and to mobility. Those things are exacerbated when you have a condition like cerebral palsy. We also see that getting people involved with activities is a way for them to be a part of their communities. So we want to support that as much as we can. So there's a lot of areas that need attention. As a community, we have a laundry list of issues, from a lack of educational resources about what is known, about cerebral palsy and what can be done with the conditions that people are currently facing. We also have a lot of work to improve those treatments and therapies. We need to work on providing an earlier and accurate diagnosis for cerebral palsy so that infants can have the earliest support possible and earliest treatment. We have a fragmented medical model for cerebral palsy. A lot of individuals are treated symptomatically, and when cerebral palsy is often caused by some kind of brain injury or it's a disturbance in neurological development. So people are not just facing issues around mobility, they're often facing a myriad of issues which are unique to the individual. It could be vision, it could be hearing. We have people in tremendous pain as they age. There could be issues with learning. So we really need to work on our medical model for cerebral palsy so that there is a more holistic view of those symptoms and their treatment. We also need to work on transitioning our children into adult care and having a system that actually meets them at that point. And we need to know which treatments work best for which individuals in our community, and at what point in time is it best to have those treatments implemented. And finally, an area that really needs a lot of attention is we are a community that is quite large, and yet we do not have allocated government funds for understanding cerebral palsy and even how many people have it. So we have a lot of work to do when it comes to advocating at the national level for people with cerebral palsy so that we can ensure that we have all of the resources we need to understand CP from the point of infancy or even before infancy through the lifespan. So one of the groups that we have created is called the CP Collaborative. And when I say we, I'm referring to a number of community advocates that are working on the front lines to advance some of the items that I just talked about that are our greatest concerns as a community, or what we've heard from all of you to be our greatest concerns and areas that have been neglected. So the CP Collaborative is an effort to bring a unified voice from organizations that are focused on supporting people who have cerebral palsy. It's meant to strategically address the issues that we're facing so that we can work together whenever possible. And our main goal is to advocate for what's called Senate appropriation language. And that means that we would have a line item in our government budget that indicates that funds will be spent for people with cerebral palsy, both at the National Institutes of Health, which is where the majority of medical research is funded from, and also at the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And the CDC is very important. We've been working hard as a community to get support from the CDC because they actually do what's called surveillance. And what that means is that they are focused on identifying how many people in the United States actually have cerebral palsy. So this is very important work, and whenever there is an opportunity for our community and for you as individuals to join in, we do need your support in advocating for cerebral palsy language in the national budget. Where are we headed as a community? And I'm speaking not just as the leader of my nonprofit, but this again is about where all of the organizations, professional organizations and nonprofits, where are we putting our resources and energy? So one of the things that I did, CP Now did in partnership with the organization's, the Cerebral Palsy Research Network, which is called CPRN. We held a program called Research CP. So we received grant funds, and the goal was to identify what are the concerns that are most pressing for this community that we need to be researching. You can read more about it on our website. I wrote a blog post about it. CPRN also has a blog post that's geared more towards the professional audience. But what we did is we had a series of webinars and an in-person program where we got very detailed information that was published in a medical journal about what this community wants to have people focus on. And this is a very powerful, program because it led to a document that can be circulated among government agencies, other nonprofit and granting agencies looking to support people with disabilities or people with cerebral palsy. So it really, it's like our beginning almost, which makes me sad in some ways, but grateful that we have this stepping stone where we can begin to move forward in a way where acknowledging what in the medical profession they refer to as patients, I say consumers, what you all want to see dollars going towards. And that's vital because we don't have many dollars to spend. So some other things, we're going to be focusing on participation, long-term or what's called longitudinal research, and lifespan issues that came out of Research CP. So I think more than anything, the message I received from that program was everybody wants to be as active as possible. They want to be part of their communities. They want to be as independent as possible in whatever way they can, whether it's through technology, ensuring that programs are more inclusive and have the tools to incorporate people with disabilities. What are some other things we're working on as a community? My organization, CP Now, is focused on the development of educational resources to support you throughout the lifespan. So in addition to the CP Toolkit, we have a well-being guide, and we're working on an early detection resource. We also have an advocating for inclusion document and resource that is designed to help you understand how to negotiate some of these conversations and circumstances where you feel like you can't be a part of programming in your community. So to help you get to a place where you can. The other thing is CPRN. They actually have our first, well, not our first, but I would say our first comprehensive community registry. They have two kinds of registries, which I'm not going to get into now. But you have an opportunity if you go to mycerebralpalsy.org, you can register. That will help us collect information about our community to better understand what challenges you are facing. We also have forums there. They are designed to really efficiently gather as much information as possible for researchers to begin to analyze what problems we're facing as a community and get answers to those questions as soon as possible. So we are really relying on our community to go to mycerebralpalsy.org and consider participating, because that will give us access to your experience with CP, and it can help researchers advance their projects. It also gives you an opportunity, if some of you are interested in this, to work with researchers in developing studies and executing them. So it's a really good opportunity. The legislation advocacy piece, we have actually made tremendous progress. That does not mean that we don't need your help, but we have gotten to a point, thanks to Cynthia Frazina from Reaching for the Stars, where we have language in the federal budget. We don't have a dollar amount allocated, but we do have language that says that certain goals need to be accomplished at the National Institutes of Health, and that has really helped generate support for research for our community. We also are going to be, there is a push to address adult concerns. They've really been neglected. If you think the cerebral palsy community has been neglected as a whole, our adult community has been the most muted, or not muted, but unheard. What I hope that you're going to see and that you will help us with is that this community is going to become more visible. The concerns and the challenges that all of you are facing on a daily basis will be known to the public and to government agencies that are in a position to make things better. It was very disheartening in the beginning when I started this work, when my daughter was much younger, to find that people really thought this community was well supported. And there's just so much work that has needed to be done. I finally feel that we have a foundation for growth that makes sense and is strategic. And we will become more visible, particularly with your help, with your voices. The way that I see myself and the way that I work on behalf of the community, I really enjoy connecting with all of you, hearing about what you're struggling with, what's working for you, and then also communicating with the physicians and researchers and agencies that are in a position to advance research and treatments and support for all of us. I would say I'm a communication broker. So here's what you can do to help us move forward. First thing, you can sign up for mycerebralpalsy.org. By doing so, you'll immediately have the opportunity to take some research surveys. You'll be part of a registry that will help our researchers better understand what it's like for you to live with cerebral palsy. You can visit the CP Now Facebook page, and there we provide regular updates still about our family and what it's like to raise our daughter, the concerns that we have, and how we're negotiating what we're finding to be difficult. We also have regular research updates and advocacy announcements. If you are pressed for time or you're not able to make financial contributions, there are many ways that you can be a part of our community and help us get ahead. Something as simple as sharing a quote about your experience. I can take that experience and put it in a place where it can be heard by people that are in a position to make things better for us. Thank you all for coming today. Again, I wish I could have been there in person to talk to you and meet all of you. Please visit our website, cpnowfoundation.org. That's where you'll find the Cerebral Palsy Toolkit, which there are some copies that I shipped to all of you, so they should be around the room. We also have our well-being guide available there, and as new resources are developed, we will share them on our website. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook. We are also on Twitter, and we've just started Instagram, which is new territory for me. If you want to contact me, you can email me directly at michele@cpnowfoundation.org. You can also reach me through the website. Thank you all so much again, and I look forward to meeting you in the future.